And if anyone remembers newspapers, we have some exhibits from the Jack in the Box outbreak of E. coli 0157 that broke in 1993. This is a full-page ad, which was a pretty big deal, of Jack in the Box telling the public that they're working on the situation and they're taking it very seriously. I'm here with Dr. Paul Cieslak, who led one of the investigations on this outbreak that was so instrumental in solving it. Paul, what do you remember about this outbreak?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I think this is perhaps the most consequential foodborne outbreak in my lifetime. Back in 1993, when this thing broke, very few people knew about E. coli 0157 or other Shiga toxin-producing E. coli. Most public health officials weren't tracking it. I think it was reportable in Washington State, Oregon, and Minnesota, and maybe no others, so only a few states were even trying to track cases of this. In Washington State, the outbreak was huge. There were, I think, about 700 cases total in the state of Washington, many of whom had the hemolytic uremic syndrome, the kidney problem that makes us worry about Shiga toxin-producing E. coli so much, and 4 deaths associated with that outbreak. And they were quickly able to figure out that it was eating at Jack in the Box that was associated with illness. Most of their cases were children. They had cases in some other states as well, and I was a CDC Epidemic Intelligence Service officer, and I was sitting in a conference room listening to a talk one day in January of 1993 when my supervisor came creeping up the aisle, tapped me on the shoulder, called me to the back, and I was on a plane later that afternoon to Las Vegas. They had gotten reports of cases of bloody diarrhea, some of whom had eaten at Jack in the Box, so we wondered, do they have the same problem? Had they gotten the same hamburgers? And we ended up figuring out that the hamburgers there were contaminated also. These are pictures that I took at the time of some of the lot of contaminated hamburgers, and they did indeed trace back to getting contaminated meat from the same source as the Washington State cases. But I think the reason it was so consequential was not only the devastating nature of this outbreak with several deaths, but it broke on Martin Luther King weekend of 1993. So this is a 3-day weekend in January. And remember what else was going on at that time? The Clinton administration was just coming into office, and he named Secretary Mike Espy as Secretary of Agriculture. Right away, they were intensely interested in being on top of this breaking situation. In the wake of that outbreak, a lot of new regulations went into effect in order to try to prevent this thing from happening again. I think it was a major impetus toward the so-called HACCP regulations, the Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, which mandated that people selling food had to check, what are the potential hazards and where do you control them and make sure that you're controlling them. A lot of states in the wake of that started making E. coli 0157 reportable, and of course now it's reportable in all 50 states, as you know, and we track outbreaks regularly. And finally, it launched the so-called PulseNet system, whereby, we were using this in that outbreak. It was a relatively new technology developed at CDC, where they would take the bacterial DNA and analyze it to see which strains were related to each other. And they launched a system to get every state doing this and to send their results into a national database so that if we had a case in Oregon that matched a case in New Hampshire, we could figure it out. So for all of these reasons, I think that was perhaps the most consequential outbreak in my days in public health.
The rise of PFG was a really big deal. And I think also this outbreak led to E. coli 0157 being named an illegal adulterant in ground beef as well. Is that right?
That's a great point, right. So it wasn't that you could have some but not too much. It's that any E. coli 0157 found in your ground beef, and the ground beef was going to be recalled.
Yeah, that's been keeping people safe for a long time. Thanks, Paul.